Hi there. My name is Paige Borak, and I'm thrilled that World Stage Design is letting me do this flash talk on adapting lighting designs for sensory inclusive performances. So, I am a Las Vegas based lighting designer. I teach at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, my alma mater, where in graduate school, I really started this research on sensory friendly theater making. And I did this because more productions were asking me to create an additional show file for a one sensory inclusive performance in the show uh, over the course of the show's run. And I really wanted to show up for this marginalized and often ignored community in live events, but I also wanted to properly show off the art that I had been working so hard on. I wanted to give this a proper experience that didn't feel like giving someone something with kid gloves. I wanted to still feel the artistry. So I went online looking for guidance, and there wasn't much. It's a very new field. There still isn't much. And a lot of my research has actually been pulled from psychology and pulled from architecture and other places uh, where there has been more research on this and recontextualized for theater. So, let's talk really quickly about what sensory processing sensitivities are. And big shout out right now to Dr. Elaine Aaron from Stony Brook University. She is the pioneer and expert in highly sensitive people. She's dedicated a lot of her career to it. And she's the one who came up with this clever mnemonic. But first of all, addressing a misconception. Often people conflate sensory processing sensitivities or sensory friendly performances with autism friendly performances, and that's not the case. Sensory processing sensitivities and autism sometimes do go hand in hand. Often people with autism have sensory processing sensitivities, but Dr. Aaron estimates that 15 to 20% of people, and that's people across the board, neurotypical and neurodivergent alike, have some level of sensory processing sensitivity. So we're not just doing this for a few people in the audience with specific diagnoses. These performances can really benefit a large portion of our audiences and just deliver a softer, subtler artistic experience to some of the people who are already still watching our shows. But this is the guidelines, the four facets of sensory processing sensitivities. The biggest one is depth of processing. If I see an event and someone with sensory processing sensitivity sees the same event, I will be receiving a certain amount of base sensory input and they will be receiving more. For every amount of sensory morsel, they chew on it more, think about it more. They have more aspects of it that their brain will process before they are done with that piece of information, meaning that it's super easy to get overwhelmed, especially when a lot of people who are highly sensitive are empaths, are very emotionally in tune, and they care a lot about when they see emotions around them. So what is theater if not evoking emotion? So while we're evoking that emotion on stage, we're giving them all of this information from lighting and sound and scenic, and it is just this constant barrage of sensory information. And it can be overwhelming even for people without sensory processing sensitivities. But even those subtle changes like flickers, those tend to be more picked up on by people who are highly sensitive and by our highly sensitive audiences. So, with these in mind, how can we mitigate? And I always am sure to say mitigate because there's no way you could possibly anticipate every trigger. It's impossible. So, one of the biggest things we can do to mitigate is lowering levels of contrast. And that is anything that changes dramatically. So those can be zero count blackouts. They can be a shift in color because think about it. If there's a dramatic shift in color, now every item on stage has new color information that all has to be reprocessed at that deeper level. So this different dramatic increases or decreases in intensity. And now I don't want you to think that you have to rewrite everything. One of the easiest ways to lessen contrast is just keeping the house lights on at 15 to 30% for the entire performance. And this does double duty because if someone does get overstimulated, it provides an exit strategy, an easy way to remove themselves if necessary. Which just having that option also can alleviate some anxiety. But we're talking about uh, things like that you can lose in a production, might be strobes or fog or haze, things that deviate from theater norms. So you might not be expecting, for example, blinders in your lighting. An audience member isn't expecting lighting to be on them. So a lot of times that's something you can cut in order to make your design more sensory friendly. And you get to pick is the most important part for me, at least, is decide what is integral to you giving your artistic message and work around it. So if those snaps to black are so important for delivering what you need to say, maybe make the effects slower. Maybe make there be a little more fill light so it feels less uh, dramatic or intense or shadowy, so that you can find different ways to lessen sensory input while still keeping your artistry and keeping true to all of the work you and your team have done. So I hope that this has shed a little bit of light. I know it was fast, but if you want to talk or have any follow-up questions or just want to say hi, feel free to reach out to me, Paige Borak, and I hope you have a lovely conference. Thanks for listening.